Quickly looking at the question from the extra exercises that we had on Friday. This question is asking us to describe the transformation that will map the curve with the equation y equals x squared onto the curves with equations. For example, a question could be y equals x squared plus 4. Now, look at the question properly. It's asking us to describe, and the key word is transformation, with the equation y equals x squared. So we have our equation y equals x squared. Y equals x squared is this parabola, this. This plus 4, all it does is move the curve 4 spaces up. It's exactly the same curve, 4 spaces up, so every point has been moved 4 spaces. So 4 spaces here, 4 spaces here as well. So the transformation would be a vector which has been moved 4 spaces up and, 4 spaces up. See, I even made a mistake. So it hasn't moved left or right, so no left or right, but it has moved 4 spaces up. Just a quick heads up, a vector has a number here. The number describes left or right. If it is positive, it goes to the right. If it is negative, it goes to the left. And the bottom number describes transformation up and down. If it goes up, it's a positive number. If it goes down, it's a negative number. So here's our transformation of this curve, y equals x squared plus 4. Now another question would be, what would the transformation of this equation be? Y equals x squared plus 7, again easy. It hasn't moved left or right, but it has moved 7 up. Another one, y equals x squared minus 3.5. Again, no left or right, but it has moved down 3.5 spaces, so down 3.5. Okay, now another form of question would be this. This is very different. Y is equal to brackets x minus 2 squared. Now this is still a quadratic, because if we expand it we get x squared minus 4x plus 4. Highest power is 2, so the highest power would imply it is a parabola like this. And if you have a number inside the brackets, it would just mean it's moved left or right. So if it's inside the brackets, left or right. And in this case, if this is our parabola, it would have moved to the right 2 spaces. So this would be our new parabola, and its minimum here would be 2. So it's moved to the right 2 spaces. 2 hasn't moved up or down, so 2, 0 would be a vector. So basically it does opposite of what it says. Minus 2 would imply it going to the left, but in fact it goes to the right. Another question very quickly. So y equals x minus 7.9 squared. Let's just say, if it was in the question, it's just moved 7.9 to the right. No up and down. Okay. I'm just going to shrink this to have enough space. Another question would be, for example, f y is equal to x plus 2 brackets squared. This time, instead of going to the right, because it's a plus 2 is moved to the left. Minus 2, 0. This would be the vector that describes y equals x squared. A combination of the two, we could have y is equal to x plus 2, so I'm still looking at f plus 2 plus 7, when plus 7 is outside the brackets. So remember, if it's outside the brackets on its own, it's just going to move it up. And we already know what this plus 2 is going to do when it's inside the bracket. The plus 2 inside the bracket moves it to the left 2 spaces, and the plus 7 is going to move it up 7 spaces. Okay, one more. It's going to be very similar to this, so x plus 3 squared plus 5 outside the bracket. So again, this plus 3 moves it to the left 3 spaces, and this plus 5 is going to move it up 3 spaces. Last two examples, that's going to relate to these. y is equal to x minus 4 squared plus 2. Again, the vector for this, since it's a minus 4, it's going to go to the 4 to the spaces to the right, and this plus 2 is going to move it up. And last example, y is equal to x minus 3 squared minus 5. So this minus 3 in the bracket is going to move it to the right 3 spaces, and minus 5, since it's outside the bracket, it's on its own, it's just going to move it down 5 spaces. So let's just analyze what this says very quickly. So if we had our parents' curve that looked like this, the minimum, so the minimum of the parabola, which is over here, is going to be moved 3 spaces to the right, so 1, 2, 3, and 5 spaces down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the minimum is somewhere here, and we could just sketch what it would be, and we're done. And this is why I like completing the square. This is in the form of completing the square. Completing a square could tell us where the minimum of a quadratic is, and the coordinate for that would be just 3, 5. And this goes into further maths, so something to appreciate before then. Okay, question 3. I'm not going to speak too much about this. 2 ways that you could do this. If it says determine the coordinates or the points of intersection of the curves of the equations, blah de blah. So this means that there's 2 equations. So if we call this the red equation, this red equation would look something. I'm guessing it's not correct, 100% correct, but 0, 0. So if x equals 0, y equals 0, so it crosses x. X minus 1, x equals 0. Equals 1. So it looks something like this. And y equals 4 plus x minus x squared would look something, give me a second, x squared minus x minus 4, 2 minus 3, 4 and 1, new, 1 moment. Okay, so this equation would look something like this. Again, this is a guess, not 100% correct. So all we have to do is find out the points of intersection, which is at this point and this point. So we got 2 points that cross, we got 2 coordinates. So when you answer this question, make sure to give both coordinates. I haven't spoken about how you would answer this question. One way you could do this is by drawing yourselves 2 sets of tables. So this one would be x, y. This one would be for the blue one because it's already blue, and this one would be for the red equation. So x, y, this is for this red equation, y equals x squared minus x. And draw yourselves tables, put in some values, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So work out the value of y. So in this case it would be minus 3 squared, which is 9, minus minus 3, which means adding 3. So 9 add 3 is 12. Minus 2 squared is 4. 4 add 2 is 6, and so on. So you work out your values, you'd plot your coordinates on a nice pair of axes that is accurate, so you plot them. It would look something like this, and you could just sketch carefully with this, and then you would do the same thing for this equation, this blue equation that we put blue dots onto it, and again put your coordinates in and do a quick sketch, and then from your graph literally write down the 2 pairs of coordinates, so it would be this coordinates and this coordinates, and that would be your solution. Or you could do what I would do and solve it using algebra. So let's do it. Let's use algebra to solve this question. So we got y is equal to x squared minus x, and you have another y is equal to 4 plus x minus x squared. Since these are both the same things, so y is x squared minus x and y is also 4 plus x minus x squared, we can say, well, x squared minus x is equal to 4 plus x minus x squared. Sorry, I was thinking 2 steps ahead. X squared, because y is the same as y, and this y, we'll put a little dot on it, is that we're going to call it this y, and this y with a little line over it is this y. Since they are the same y's, we can just equate them together. Now let's get to solving. What I like doing is adding x squared to both sides, so I'm going to collect all x squareds in one side, tidy it up. So 2x squared minus x is equal to 4 plus x, and I'm going to subtract x, so I get 2x squared minus 2x is equal to 4. Let me cross this out. Now what I want to do next is, let me move this up so it's easier for us to see and solve. So I have enough space. Take away 4, take away 4. So we got 2x squared minus 2x minus 4 is equal to 0. And now we just have to find out what x is. Over here, what I like to do is, to make things easier, because I can see 2 goes into every term, I'm going to divide every term by 2. And I can do that because I am balancing the equation. So 2x squared divided by 2 is just going to leave us with x squared, minus 2x divided by 2 is just going to leave us x, minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2 is equal to 0. And look, we can factorize this into 2 brackets. 2 brackets, x, x, and that is still equal to 0. So 2 numbers times together minus 2, but add together is minus 1. That's really easy. So minus 2 and 1. Does that work? Yeah, minus 2 times 1 is minus 2. Minus 2 add 1 is minus 1. So here it is. We can work out our coordinates. From this we can say x is, well, how can I make that into 0? Easy, if x is 2. And from this, how can I make this into 0? That's if x is minus 1. Now, we've worked out the x values. We haven't answered the question yet. It's asking us for coordinates. Easy way of getting coordinates is just by, whoops, come on, let me grab this. It's not letting me, so I'm just going to copy it down over there. X is 2, and x is minus 1. Now, for coordinates, we need a y value for this x and a y value for this x. You can pick any coordinate, any equation you want, because at this point, the y's should be the same. I'm going to pick this one here. It looks the easiest. So, if x is 2, 2 squared is 4, take away 2 is 2. And just to satisfy our need for knowledge, let's just try x equals 2 with this one. So we got 4 plus 2 minus, well, 2 squared is 4. These cancel out and we're left with 2. Wow. X is still 2. Now for this one, x is minus 1. Minus 1 squared is 1. And minus 1, well, minus 1 is the same as adding 1, so 1 add 1 is 2. So your y is also 2. Ah, look, that was a good sketch. I knew something was good about those y's, and they were quite the same. So yeah, so this is your coordinates. Your coordinates for this point is x is 2, 2, and for this pair of points it's minus 1 and 2. So here is your solution. Pretty long-winded question, but it's really nice to enjoy it and to learn that you can do it either using algebra, which is really rewarding at the end, or you could use graphs to solve it. And if you had used graphs, it would have been perfectly fine. You would have got the same answer if it was drawn accurately and nicely. Okay, just a quick note, in an exam, if they say using a graph, make sure you do a graph, you use a graph. If they haven't said use a graph and they haven't given you a graph paper, then algebraic method is the only way to get the marks. Or is it? It depends on the exam. We'll talk about that a little bit more on Monday. Okay, question 4. Very easy. Just quickly going to read it for you, but let me just do a quick sketch before that. So question 4, the curve y equals x squared is reflected in the x-axis. What is the equation of the curve produced by this reflection? Just a quick sketch of y equals x squared, and going back to the question, is reflected in the x-axis. So this is our x-axis, so this is like the mirror that we need. And if it is reflected, it would look something like this. And we know, we've seen this plenty of times, this is the equation, y is equal to minus x squared. Done. Okay, question 1, I'm not going to spend too long on it, I'm just going to do a few questions as examples. If you want to skip this, you're more than welcome to. But what I'm going to do is maybe do these 3 questions and that is it. Okay. 4 questions. Okay, so question 1 is asking us to factorize each of the following expressions. So remember, factorizing an expression basically means to put it into a bracket. So when I'm looking at this, when I see just one x in a term, and since it's linear, we only need one pair of brackets. Then I think to myself, what's the biggest number that goes into 8 and 40? That is definitely 8. Put the brackets in there, because we don't have the highest common factor of x. Close my brackets. Then I say to myself, 8 times what gives us 8x? Well, that's just 8x there. And then I say to myself, 8 times what gives us this plus 40, and that is just plus 5. And we've done it. We've got it in the brackets, and we've factorized it. We've fully factorized it because 8 is the biggest number that goes into 8 and 40. D, 4x plus 36x squared. Now, since we have x in every term, it means that we can have it as just one bracket as well. Then I say to myself, which x has the lowest power? And the lowest power is just this x to the power of 1. And leave it outside the brackets. Then I look at the numbers. Now, what's the biggest number that goes into 4 and 36? It's 4. So I put 4 outside the brackets. Then again, it's the same method as what we did for question A. 4x times what gives us 4x? This is probably the hardest question you will ever hear. 4x times what gives us 4x? 0? No, it's not 0, it's 1. 4x times 1 gives us 4x. Plus, since we've got plus here, plus 4x times what gives us 36x squared. Well, we definitely need the x there because x times x gives us that x squared. Now, 4 times what gives us 36? It's just 9. We're done, finished. We've fully factorized it and done. F, very quickly, x squared minus 49. We've done plenty of these. We're going to have 2 brackets because x is just in one term. There is no x with 49. So this would look something very similar to this. This would be a quadratic. Now I'm hoping this is not going to confuse you, and I don't like explaining it a lot of times, but I'm just going to put 0x there. 0x is nothing. I've just put that there to help us out. Now we ask ourselves, what 2 numbers times together gives us minus 49, but when we add them, gives us 0. That is 7 and minus 7. So x plus 7, x minus 7. What I like about this question is I've forgotten a name to it, but whenever you have x squared minus a square number, then that is just x, pens running out, x plus 5 and x minus 5. If we have x squared minus a square number, square root that number, so x plus 10, x minus 10. That was just a quick hint. Hopefully you've seen it before. Alright. Now, moving on to G. G, very easy, just as above over here. 2 numbers times together gives us minus 30, but when you add them is 7. So this is where you need to look at numbers simultaneously in your head. So you need to think of 2 numbers and you need to think about both operations at the same time. So timesing and adding, and you need to think about pluses and minuses. What I mean by that is negative numbers and positive numbers. So quickly, minus 30, how can I make minus 30? But with 2 numbers minus 30, we'll add them as plus 7. That would be plus 10 minus 3. Quick check. 10 times minus 3 is minus 30. Good. 10 add minus 3 is 7. Good. We got it. We factorized it. Put it into brackets. Done. And we're finished. Have a go at the rest of these questions. If you like. No, not if you like. You are going to be doing them for homework. Question 2. Solve the following equations. I am going to be looking at some of the interesting ones. I find the first one interesting, this one interesting, and this one and this one. Okay, let's start. So, 2a. So the first thing you do when you're solving means that we're going to find a value for x. Now there's going to be 2x values because it's a quadratic, and if you look at 2a, first thing we'd like to do is factorize this expression, and when you factorize this, it's x plus 3 x minus 1, and it's still equal to 0. Now for what value of x does it make this bracket into 0? If x is minus 3, and for what value of x makes that into a 0 if x is 1. Done, finished, 2a's done. We've solved it. X is minus 3, x is 1. Now 2d, 6x minus x squared, 6x minus x squared is equal to 0. Now straight away, because we've got only x's there, we can just say if x was 0, 6 times 0 is 0, minus 0 squared is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0. So x has to be a solution to this equation. Now, let's see if there's another one. Remember, quadratics, highest power of 2, have 2 solutions. So, what I like to do with that is factorize it. Now, factorizing this, the lowest power between x squared and x is x, and the biggest number that goes into 6 and 1, I just drew that 1 to help us out, is 1, so we don't need 1 outside the brackets. Now, closing brackets, x times what gives us 6x, obviously 6. X times what gives us minus x squared. X times minus x gives us minus x squared, and we've done it, and that's equal to 0. Remember, if x was 0, 0 times anything is 0, so that was definitely correct. And inside the brackets, if x was 6, then 6 take away 6 is 0, so 0 times anything is 0, so x is 6. Right, we've done it, finished. Let's move on. Okay, next interesting question I said was this. Believe it or not, there's no difference between this question and that question. All they want to do is trip us up. So 5x squared is equal to 40x, and look what I could do. Take away 40x, take away 40x. That goes, so we got 5x squared, take away 40x is equal to 0. Now, because we got it equal to 0, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by 5. So divide the left hand side by 5 and divide the right hand side by 5. Every single term needs to be divided by 5. So 5x squared divided by 5 is just x squared. Minus 40x divided by 5 is minus 8x. And 0 divided by 5 is just 0. Again, factorizing this, x minus 8 is equal to 0. This could only happen if x was 0, or x was, well, to make that into 0 is 8, and we're done. If you're not happy about dividing by 5, take a look what I'm going to do. Let's say we've done everything up to here. So we've got 5x squared minus 40x is equal to 0. So factorizing this, the biggest number, the lowest x, so the lowest power of x is just x. Then I'm going to say what's the biggest number that goes to 40 and 5, and that's just 5. Close my brackets, close my bracket, open my brackets, close my brackets. Then 5x times what gives us 5x squared is x. 5x times what gives us minus 40x, it's just minus 8. And that is equal to 0. And look, take a look, it's very similar to what we had here. Again, take a look at this x. If x was 0, then 5 times 0 times anything in here is going to be 0. Check. If x was 8, 8 take away 8 is 0, so 0 times anything over here is 0, so check. And there we go, finished. X is 0, x is 8, and the same thing as over this side. Let's move on. I'm going to delete anything over here, so Done. Okay, x squared plus 25x, sorry, x squared plus 25 is equal to 10x. So looking at G right now, take away 10x, take away 10x, we're left with x squared minus 10x. Remember, I like writing them in order. Plus the number 25 is equal to 0. That cancels out. And again, put them into brackets because we're solving them. First, factorize it. We can put it into double brackets because this term hasn't got an x next to it. It's just a number. Two numbers times together give us 25. Add together minus 10 is minus 5, minus 5. To make this bracket into 0, if x was 5, and this would be the same thing if x was 5. Since both x's are the same, we can just say if x was just 5. So if x was 5, it would make them into 0. We can just do a quick check. 5 squared is 25, and we still got a 25, is equal to 10 times 5 is 50. And is 25 plus 25 equal to 50? Yes, so x is 50. And we're done. We can go to the next one. Now, question 3. Question 3. Now, this is some problem-solving question that includes algebra. Let's take a look at the question. Let's read the question. Okay. Given that the area of the rectangle shown is 88 centimeters squared, determine the value of x. So there's a value of x over here and over here that we need to find out. Now, we know how to work out an area of a rectangle. It's length times width. And its length and width are given to us in terms of x and some numbers. Okay, so if we do 2x plus 2, the whole of 2x plus 2, hence why we need brackets, times the whole of x plus 8. That gives us something that we know how to do. It's expanding brackets. And that, if we do, gives us 88. So remember, length times width is the area of a rectangle, and the area of the rectangle is given to us, which is 88 centimeters squared. So all we need to do is expand our brackets. And expanding the brackets, so 2x times x, 2x squared, 2x times 8 gives us plus 16x. 2x times 2 is, sorry, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 8 is just plus 16, and that is still equal to 88. So I'm going to tidy this up. So this looks like 2x squared plus 16x plus 2x is 18x, plus 6 is equal to 88. Now, we're mathematicians. When we see all these numbers, we can try and simplify it. Since they're all even, and 2 seems to be the biggest number that goes into every single number, so we're going to divide every single term on the left-hand side by 2 and divide the right-hand side by 2 to balance. So every single term divided by 2, 2x squared divided by 2 is just x squared, plus 9x, plus 3 is equal to 44. I'm going to subtract 44 from this side, balance it out, doing the same thing on the other side. That cancels out to give us 0, and this is just x squared plus 9x. 3 take away 45 is minus 42. So, just going to rewrite this up here because we're going to carry on with that. So, x squared plus 9x minus 42 is equal to 0. Again, double brackets because we don't have a common factor of x with the last term. Two numbers times together minus 42, add together is 7. That is, trying to think now, it's making me think. Two numbers times together minus 42. 6 and 7 is minus 42, that doesn't work. 12 and no, 12 and 4 doesn't work. 14 and 3. Nope. Haha. This is a good question. 21 times 2. New. Still not working. 12 and 3. Oh, it is 12 and 3. No, it's not. Okay, I'm going to start by doing this. We know that's 42 for sure. Times this by 2, 14, 3. Nope. How about 21 times 2? Double half, we can't do that. 6 and 7 again. It's the only thing that's come to my head for some reason. I made a mistake anywhere. Maybe I've made a mistake. Doesn't seem like it. Nope. 6 and 7, 42, 12, 14 and 3. Squared plus 9x. That's because we're subtracting 44. 3 take away 44 is 39. Minus 39, so I've made a mistake there. That's why it doesn't work. Is that true? 3 take away 44, the same as take away 3. Take away 41, is it 41? It is 41. So that should have been 41. It'd be nice to see in the video that this is a mistake from me. Now I'm starting to doubt. I can't do simple subtraction, you know. This, or multiplication for that matter. So 3 take away 44 is minus 41, so that's right. Now, again, I feel like we've made a mistake somewhere. 2 times 8. This was all wrong. This was all wrong. So I just realized the mistake we made. 2x times x is x squared. 2x times 8 is plus 16. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 8 is 16, and I forgot that 1 there. That's going to be a 16 plus 16 as well. When we divide it by 2, it's going to be an 8. And 8 take away 44 is minus 36. So that's where our mistake happened. And that's going to be minus 36 as well. Okay. Now, two numbers times together is minus 36. Add together is 9. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. So minus 6 times 6 minus 36. I figured it out. It's 12 and 3. And that's 12 and minus 3. So x is plus 12 and x minus 3 is equal to 0. So x is minus 12, or it could have been x is 3. If we substitute x is minus 12 into one of these, or even in this one, let's just say, then minus 12 add 8 is minus 4. We cannot have a minus length, so it cannot be this solution, even though it could have been a valid solution. But since x is 3 makes this length a positive and this length a positive, then x has to be 3. With minus 12, when we substitute it in one of these, or any of these, it would give us a length, which is a negative, and we can't have that. So we've done it. We've determined the value of x, and x is 3. Forgive me, the only mistake was that this shouldn't have been a 6. It should have been a 16. I think the line didn't draw properly. And it's still the same thing. We just divided by 2 would give us 8. Take away 44 minus 36. This should have been minus 36 as well. And that's it. Factorize it into double brackets and tell us what the x could have been, because it's equal to 0. And we're done. Question 1, I'm only going to do 2 examples because we've done a few of these already. In fact, we've done a few of everything, but just as examples it would be nice. Okay, so the question's asking us to write the following in the form of x plus b. B is a number and c is a number, so x plus b brackets squared plus c. Now this form is just completing the square form, completing the square form. So looking at question 1a, x squared plus 10x, completing the square would just be x plus 5. So remember, half coefficient of x and square it. Take away, it's always a take away this number squared. Take away 25. Done. I'm just going to do b because it's so easy to do. So x squared minus 6x, again, bracket, bracket, x. Half the coefficient of x, so half of minus 6 is minus 3. Don't forget your squared outside the bracket. The minus 3 squared is 9, so we have to take that away. Minus 9. Done. Finished. In fact, if you expand this brackets, simplify, you'll get that. Going on to question 1c, x squared plus 2x plus 6. Remember, okay, so we're just going to use the same technique with question 1 and 2, a and b, with x squared and this plus 2x, and this plus 6 we'll deal with later. So x squared plus 2x, remember half the coefficient of x is 1, put it outside the bracket squared. Now take away that 1 squared, but don't forget we've still got this plus 6, so we have to add 6. And that would just leave us x plus 1 squared. So 1 squared is 1, so minus 1 plus 6 is going to be a plus 5. That's what it simplifies to. And done. Okay, now question 2. Question 2, this is a lovely question and I like this question. I also like, so that's 6 minus 36. I also like this question, and we can do both questions now. And I also like E as well, because it's an odd number. Okay, 2a, x squared plus 4x plus 3. Let's read what the question is asking us to do. Solve each of the following equations by completing the square. Give your answer to 2 decimal places where necessary. So sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. And when it is necessary, that's when we need to use a calculator. Okay, so I'm going to complete the square for this. So it's x plus 2 squared, take away 2 squared, so that's just take away 4, plus 3 is equal to 0. Tidy it up, x plus 2 squared minus 1 is equal to 0. And we're just going to plus 1 on both sides. Now we're trying to solve it, we're trying to work out what x is at this time. Plus 1 on both sides, this cancels out, and you get x plus 2 squared is equal to 1. Square root both sides. So x plus 2, this square root will get rid of that, cancels out. X plus 2 is equal to, the square root of 1 is just 1, but it's going to be a plus or minus 1. Subtract 2, so you're left with x is equal to plus minus 1 minus 2. And let's take a look at the solution when x is a plus. Sorry, this 1 is a plus. So if 1 was a plus, we have 1 minus 2, and 1 minus 2 would just give us minus 1. So x is minus 1. Now let's take a look at it when 1 is a minus 1. So that would just be x is equal to minus 1 minus 2, and minus 1 minus 2 is minus 3. So here's your x value, x is minus 1, here's your x value, x is minus 3. And we're done. Okay, let's take a look at E. I like this question because when we half the coefficient of 9, you'd get a decimal. Let's have a look at what it looks like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this. Remember, you've got a video. You can always come back to this if you'd like by rewinding. Okay. Question 2e. So x squared minus 9x plus 1 is equal to 0. Remember, complete the square for this. So it's x minus half of 4.9 is 4.5 squared. Now, subtract 4.5 squared. That's subtracting 20.25. That's what 4.5 squared is. And we still got a plus 1. And that is equal to a 0. So I'm just going to tidy this up. Let's tidy this up very quickly. Minus 20.25 plus 1 is minus 19.25. And that is still equal to 0. Now it's time to solve. We've completed the square. Put it in the simplest form. Let's start solving. Plus 19.25 plus 19.25 on both sides. This will cancel out with that, and you're left with x minus 4.5 squared is equal to 19.25. Now, square root, so it will just be x minus 4.5. Remember, this square root cancels out, and that is equal to square root of 19.25. I'm going to use a calculator for that, so give me a second. The square root of 19.25. The square root of, I'm going to write it here, square root of 19.25 is equal to 4.3874821937, blah de blah de blah blah. It goes on, maybe forever, maybe not, we don't know. And this to 2 decimal places, remember it needs to give an answer to 2 decimal places. That to 2 decimal places is 4.39. So square root of 19.25 is going to be our plus or minus 4.39 to 2dp. Now let's go back. Add 4.5. We're going to solve for x. Cancel out. Balance. Add 4.5. This would mean, sorry, I don't have enough space. This would mean x is plus minus 4.39 plus the 4.5 that we had from over this side. Take a look at the positive first. So when 4.39 is positive, we get 4.39 plus 4.5, and that is equal to 8.89. Now let's take a look at the negative. So when x is a minus here, so x would be minus 4.39 plus 4.5, and that would give us 0.11, I believe. So minus 4.5 minus 4.39, yep, 0.11. So x could have been 0.11, or x could be 8.89. And that is it. I don't think I should do f, because f is pretty much the same as e. I just wanted to achieve a question where we need to do square roots and get a decimal. Just quick pointers. Remember, when you half the coefficient of x, so this number here, keep the signs the same, don't change the sign. So if it's a minus 9, it's going to be half of minus 9, which is minus 4.5. If it was a minus 20, it'll be half of minus 20, which is 10. If it was a plus 5, it'll be half of 5, which is plus 2.5, and so on. And that is it. I think this concludes almost. Question 3, by far one of my favourites. I think we had a few students who already answered this, so I'm not going to go through it. Have a go at it. It's interesting if you haven't already done so. It was the last question, and pretty much liked it because it really tests your knowledge on numbers and completing a square. If you can't do it, I mean, if you've done it and you can't do it because you've reached a certain stage where you're like, I don't know what to do now because I can't do it, then you've probably answered it correctly. Okay? Enjoy and revise for the test on Monday.